It's the redesigned and retooled ZEON XD, and it's the all-new premium line winch made by Warn. And because I know it's coming, yes, there are a ton of other winches out there that are a lot cheaper, and there are a ton of people out there who will swear by whatever they chose to buy. And if you're one of those people, that's awesome. Certainly, when it comes to your money and your Jeep, you should always do what you think is best with both. When it comes to safety equipment, I personally prefer the best that money can buy. And when it comes to winches, there's only one brand that I've come to trust, and because I've seen it work consistently, reliably, time and time again, when it's needed the most, and that would be Warn. Of course, if we were talking about something like a parachute, I'm not so sure the cheapest one I could buy is really what I'd want. But hey, that's just me. In addition to its new waterproof construction that meets stringent IP68 submerged and IP69K spray testing, it also features a heavy-duty 3-stage planetary gear train that is quieter and more efficient than ever before. It also features a no-load line speed of up to 40 feet per minute and a powerful, best-in-class 6-segment cone brake that offers more control, and the large diameter aluminum drum helps to dissipate heat and reduce rope wear. Of course, all of this comes in a slightly smaller package than the original ZEON, and that means you have a bit more room to work with in tight spaces. And it even comes with a controller that can be removed and located remotely to give you even more mounting options. Being that we do have a factory steel bumper on our new Jeep Gladiator, we will be installing our ZEON XD on a winch plate made by Warn and made specifically for it. However, I do think that the steps that you'll see in this video will still be helpful to you regardless of what you're installing your winch on. To get started, I'm going to be using a Torx T45 bit to remove the 5 bolts securing the top plate on the front bumper. Now, I'm going to be using a flathead screwdriver to pull up the center pins on these push tabs, securing this plastic trim piece in front of the grill. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and open up the hood. And I'm going to do the same thing for the front grill. I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver to pull up all these push tabs that are securing the grill to the front. I should be able to just pry this thing up. Now we can just pull the grill off. Just like that. Now I should point out that this isn't a necessary step, but I always like to do it because it actually gives me a little bit more working room, and it's really going to be helpful with a winch of this size, especially being that it's located down between the frame rails. Also, when all is said and done, I will be routing all my wiring up through the grill, and this will give me access to it anyway. All right, now I'm going to be using a 13mm socket to remove all the bolts securing the skid plate to the bottom of the bumper. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and unplug our factory fog light wiring, and to do that, on the passenger side frame rail, you can see here's the plug. There's a locking tab that needs to be pushed down, and then this gets pulled out. Now I do know that on 2024 models and up, the locking tab is a little bit different, but if anything, it's actually easier to get off than what you just saw. All right, now for the fun part. So There are 4 nuts on each frame rail securing the bumper to it, and in order to remove them, I'll be using an 18mm socket. Now, the 2 outer nuts are actually not too bad to get to, but the inner ones, there's not a whole lot of room to work with, so I will be starting them off with a hand ratchet and then moving over to an electric ratchet to speed things up. All right, now for the outer bolts, and again, I'll be using an 18mm socket to remove those bolts, and as you can see, it's a lot easier to get to. So I'll be using an impact with an extension to get them off. Now using a 16mm socket, I'm going to go ahead and remove the bolts securing this gusset attached to the inner side of the frame rails. I should note that these will not be reused. As mentioned before, this winch plate is made by Warren and specifically for Jeep JL Wrangler or JT Gladiator with a factory steel bumper. And now we're going to install it. So first and foremost, I'm going to take out these brackets and we're going to dig out some of this hardware. Let's see, I'm going to need to get these nuts, these carriage bolts, and go back to the Jeep. Okay. Now again, using our 16mm socket, I'm going to go ahead and remove these 2 bolts, securing the mounting plate for the skid plate. Okay, and then we're going to take this new Warren skid plate mounting bracket and reuse the factory hardware to secure it in place. Okay, we just want it on loose for now, and I probably just got it on a bit too tight right there, in fact. Let's do the other side. All right. Now, because of the sway bar disconnect motor, I'm going to go ahead and take these carriage bolts and slip them in ahead of time because it'll be impossible to get in otherwise. Okay. At least get one of these bolts started. This one next. Again, we just want them on loose for now so that things can move around. Take these 2 carriage bolts and slip them in. All right, now we can get the winch plate and get it on. Just slip them into the carriage bolts. And take the provided nuts, just kind of loosely thread them on for now so nothing falls. Okay. Now we're going to take these heavy duty zip ties, starting one side at a time, and I'm going to slip it down and around the frame rail up through this hole in the winch plate and then tie it onto the frame rail just to kind of hold it in place. So here we go. I'm gonna slide this through, up through this bottom hole, attach the zip tie. And basically what you want to do is you want to bring it to a point where these holes are lined up. Okay, do the other side. Down and up. There we go. That looks pretty good. Time to get the winch installed. All right, let's see, I need to get these 4 bolts and these 4 nuts. And I'm gonna grab the winch. Okay, so from here, we're going to take these nuts and we're going to slide them in to the feet of the winch. You can see it's even slotted, made specifically for the hat side of the nuts. Okay, carefully lift it up. And place it on the winch plate. Okay, double check all these nuts are still in. Good. Now we're going to take the bolts and install them from underneath. Just need to make sure all the holes are lined up. All right, using a 15mm socket, once again, I'm just gonna get these snug on right now. All right, and now I'm gonna set my torque wrench to 32 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, time for the winch rope. Looks like remote. Fairlead, and wow, look at that, it's black. Abrasion guard. And a Spidura rope. All right, before we can install this winch line, there's a couple things we need to do first. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the zip tie. And then we're going to take this abrasion guard and install it, because you won't be able to install it later. Unfortunately, you do have to start from the very end, because the front of the winch line, you can see here, it's got this big loop on it. Let's cut that off. Yeah. There you can see this loop would never fit through the abrasion guard, so I'm gonna have to put this on first. Probably don't need to do it all the way through at this very moment. We just need to get it on there enough so that we can get this winch line installed. All right. Next, we're going to take this kit right here to get out this heavy duty wire and this puck that they provide. Then we're going to take this wire, straighten it out a bit. We're going to loop it through this eyelet on the rope, about halfway through. Okay, and now we're going to take the whole rope with us over to the winch. Okay. Now for the winch drum, we're just going to have to unlock it and rotate it to a point where we can see the opening of the slot right here. Go ahead and relock this. And then we're going to take our winch line. Just going to twist this off a bit just so that it's a little bit more manageable and not all over the place. Slip it through the bottom of the winch. And then we're going to feed it through this hole in the drum. Okay, here comes the fun part. Now we're going to take a tool like a pair of needle nose vice grips. You could probably just use needle nose pliers, but I like these instead because they're bigger and broader and you're going to want as much grip on it as you can. We're just going to go ahead and wind it up on here just to give you something to pull through, and then you can see it's coming through the drum. Okay, and I'm going to get a pair of gloves because this wire is a bit sharp. All right, if this were wire rope, I would have had gloves on from the very beginning, but synthetic rope kind of throws me off. We're almost there though. Okay. Okay, let's see if that'll do it. All right, so now we're going to take this puck with this like D shape or the bulge on it facing toward the inside of the drum, and we're going to slip it into the eyelet of the rope. Okay, there you can kind of see it's in there, and now we're going to take the rope and pull it back through. Just pull on the rope. Want to get it all the way in. Not quite, but almost. You can see it's almost flush. Just a little bit more. There we go. All right, now it's time to get the front bumper ready for installation. And the first thing we're gonna do is take off this plastic fascia plate. And to do that, you just need to kind of push down on these tabs, kind of push them out. So the top ones, you push out, these, just like that. And now we're going to take a pry tool like this and we're going to separate all this wiring, these Christmas tree push tabs in the bumper. Just need to free these up. Okay. Grab these spacers that are provided. And these will go on the outer bolts. So unfortunately, we are going to have to fish this whole thing through. Now we can carefully get this bumper back on. All right, and just to prevent this bumper from falling, I'm gonna reinstall a couple of the factory nuts loosely. Okay, now try to get these inner nuts too, which are near impossible with this winch in the way. There's one. Yay. And we can go ahead and trim off this excess zip tie, but I'll go ahead and still leave it in place. All right, right, now it's time to start tightening up all the nuts and bolts, and we're gonna start with the outer ones on the front bumper because they're the easiest to get to. So before I get to the 4 hardest nuts, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up securing the winch plate to the frame. And for that, I'll be using a 16mm socket. Now for these nuts, I'll be needing a 15mm socket, but I think I'm also gonna need a swivel for that. All right, now I'm gonna try to get to these inner bolts, and they're really hard to get to thanks to the winch being in the way. I'm gonna use an electric ratchet, but they get really tight really fast, and I'll see how much I can do with this thing. All right, I'm gonna have to finish it up with a ratchet, do it by hand. So I know it's crazy, but compared to the original ZEON, the little extra space that the new XD offers makes this part of the process a little bit easier. All right, now we need to set our torque wrench to 66 foot-pounds of torque. Let's start with the inner bolts or inner nuts again first. While we're here, I'm going to go ahead and plug this guy back in. Okay. Now for those smaller bolts, just like the winch, we're going to set that to 32 foot-pounds of torque. All right, we're getting really close to wrapping things up, and what we need to do now is install this fascia plate that Warren provides. It also comes with a place to attach a license plate, and of course this is the Fairlead they provided. Now from experience I can tell you that the bolts that they give you for the Fairlead, while it should be long enough, or actually should go this way, for most applications, this is for a universal fit for all kinds of bumpers, but being that we have the factory steel front bumper, I can tell you that they're gonna be just a bit short. So I was proactive and I got ones that are just ever so slightly longer, in fact, just a 1/4 inch longer, and that should do the trick. So I'm gonna grab the cap nuts that they provide, a couple of the bolts that I just picked up. We're gonna take these pieces and now we got to fish everything through. Okay, this is the real pain in the butt part. Unfortunately, anything other than tiny little hands can get into this space, but I'm gonna try to slip this through. Oh boy. Okay, that's one. Not the easiest thing in the world to do. Shoot. Whew, that was tough. Okay, so now this one, oh no, that one. All right, now we can get this guy on. Trying to be real careful not to drop anything. Okay, get this cap screw on. This one on too. All right, now using a 5/8 inch wrench and a 5/8 inch socket, I'm gonna try to see if I can't figure out how to hold this thing. I might be able to just hold it there. Okay, that's one. Okay, well, I got super lucky, and I'll tell you from experience, with the previous ZEON being just ever so slightly bigger, again, it made that job near impossible, but because it's slightly smaller, this XD, I was able to do it. All right, now it's time to wire it up. And so I'll take the ground cable first. I always like to try to fish it up in between the radiator, about where the headlight is. Super close. I'm gonna go use a straightened out metal coat hanger just to fish it out. There it is. Pull this up and through. And then we're gonna do the same with the power lead. Just gonna hook it on. Bend it up. Okay. Definitely want to double check to make sure there's nothing chafing or rubbing on anything, that everything's got a clear path to the top. All right, using a 10mm socket, I'm going to go ahead and remove this bolt securing the air cleaner to the body. And so that I can route the cable underneath it. The negative will go over here, ultimately, and the positive. Go ahead and install this. All right, so now I'm going to take my 10mm socket. I'm going to remove this nut. We're going to go ahead and attach positive lead to it. Okay. And now we're going to take our negative lead and we're going to attach it over here. Now we could take our grill, put it back on. We push it in place. Go ahead and put in these push tabs. Okay, very close now. I'm going to pull this abrasion guard all the way down. Okay, now we can go ahead and grab our controller. And even though this thing is made to work wirelessly, I'm kind of old school. I actually trust the wired controller more. So that's what I'm going to use. Hi, Ripley. There's a port here on the side. Just need to plug it in. And because we're going to be using the winch for a bit, I'm going to actually start up the engine just so that there's plenty of power to go around. Okay. Here we go. We're going to make sure that we are in the locked position or engaged position. And then we're going to start winching in. I should know, listen how quiet that motor is. And how fast. Just trying to make sure that the first row of winds is nice and neat. Before I finish up, I do still need to install the hook, which is provided by Warren. However, I picked up one of these. This is a Factor 55 Ultra hook. To install it, just need to grab the pin, some O-ring. Just need to take my hook. Take this pin, and then there's this snap ring that needs to go inside. And you don't really need pliers to get it in. It's so soft. Just get started. Use a screwdriver. You just push it in until it clicks in place. You can see it fits. Perfect. Now we can finish reeling it in. As you can see, this Ultra hook has these rubber pads to protect your Fairlead, and everything else makes it look good, except this is upside down. Maybe I should have flipped it around. Let's try it that way. That way you can read it. Okay, that's all there is to it. Our new Warren ZEON XD is installed on our Jeep Gladiator. Obviously, the winch line is going to need to be pre-tensioned before we can get out and really have some fun. Oh, I almost forgot. The skid plate. And I should note that this factory steel bumper didn't come on this Gladiator. It's actually a hand-me-down from our very first Jeep JL Wrangler Rubicon Unlimited Jet. And so it's already been modified. And by modified, I mean that the rear holes on the skid plate have been elongated ever so slightly to help accommodate the thickness of the winch plate. So it's obviously not necessary to keep this skid plate, but if you want to keep yours, it will need to be drilled out or ground out a little bit using something like a Dremel. But otherwise, it'll bolt right up. All right, now we're really done. I hope you found this video to be helpful. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in this video. And if you're not already a member, we would love for you to join us on our online community, Wayalife.com. Until next time, keep the shiny side up, all four on the floor, and with any luck, we'll see you on the trail.